Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now Show, the voice of the DSO industry. Kim Larson and Bill Neumann talk to industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. Visit groupdentistrynow.com for more DSO analysis, news, and events. Looking for a job or have a job to fill? Visit joindso.com. We hope you enjoy today's show.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Group Dentistry Now Show. I am Bill Neumann, and as always, we really appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're listening to us on Google, on Apple, Spotify, or any one of the number of listening apps that we're on. We appreciate you. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you just find us on Group Dentistry Now, great to have you here. Without an audience, we wouldn't have a show. And of course, without great guests, we wouldn't have an audience. So I'm going to introduce you to our next guest. And you may, if you're watching this on YouTube, you may have seen this face. He goes to a lot of the DSO meetings. That's how we first met. And just doing some really innovative things from an educational front. And I'm going to let him tell his story because I think it's really unique. I don't think there's anything like this out there that exists. And Bill certainly will correct me, but I don't think there is. But let me do the introduction and then we'll get into the conversation. And it'll get confusing because we have two Bills on today and we both like to talk, but we're gonna make this fun. So we have Dr. Bill Piskorowski, and he is the Health Sciences Clinical Professor, Associate Dean for Community-Based Clinical Education at UCLA School of Dentistry. That's a mouthful. So I'll give you a little bit of his background, but he's been in the dental space since 1979, started practicing dentistry then up until 2006. And Bill, was that in Michigan where you practiced dentistry?
Yes, in a suburb of Michigan.
So he left practicing dentistry in 2006, and he took a full-time position at the University of Michigan School of Dentistry as the Director of Outreach and Community Affairs. And then in 2017, he actually accepted a position, which is where he is today. He's the Associate Dean for Community-Based Clinical Education, CBCE for short, at UCLA School of Dentistry. Tell you a little bit about the program, and we'll get into much more detail. The program echoes the vision of the dean by bringing the dental school to the community. In its humble beginnings, the CBCE program has treated over 15,000 patients, delivering over 30,000 procedures, seeing each fourth-year dental student, and this is really important, each fourth-year dental student providing 6 weeks of service in their fourth year. And of course, Bill, you have plans for expansion for this program. So, all right, said a lot there. I'm going to stop and I'm going to let you fill in any of the blanks. Talk a little bit about your background, maybe how you went from practicing dentistry to getting into education. And then I'd love to hear a little bit about this program.
Well, thank you, Bill, for that kind introduction. And what I'll share with you is that my journey into education was a mistake. I used to be a clinical consultant for the Dental Advisor, a publication out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And one of my mentors, God rest his soul, Dr. Bill Gregory, was the editor of that. And he says, Bill, I like the way you evaluate our products, and I think you ought to be a teacher. And I said, I have no desire to teach. I like to go fly fishing on my day off. And as a favor to him, I experimented with that one day a week and I fell in love with it. And then the rest is history. That was in 2001. I was part-timer for a couple of years at private practice. And I felt that it was my duty to give back, to shorten the learning curves of students. Because as I said to you once before, Bill, when I first got out of dental school, I worked for an idiot, and that idiot was me. I had no reason to be the CEO of a company right out of school. Even though I was okay with my clinical practice and my skills, I had a lot to learn as far as business management and leadership. But you know what, that's a journey in itself. And because of that journey, I felt that I had things to offer for students to actually guide them in their path going forward.
That's great. It's just kind of interesting. And you talk about, the boss being the idiot. And I think that could be a reason why we've seen such a growth with DSOs, right? Where dental schools, I think, unfortunately, haven't done any favors from the business side of things for dentists, and a lot of or most of the business education that a clinician gets is in undergrad, and it could be an accounting course or something very general, and maybe a brief maybe a brief week or 2 weeks at dental school, and some, maybe a consultant comes in and helps out, but you still don't hear much. I guess that's why there's so many consultants in the industry.
Well, you know what, Bill, it's a great point, but think this out. A student goes into dentistry literally not knowing what to do. You have a basic science background, but you're literally learning a foreign language to its excellence in 4 years. And you know what? It's not that you can make a mistake in a sentence. You're dealing with the lives of patients. So, just to embrace everything you learn to be a clinician is hard enough. And, it's easier for some, but, to balance both practice management and clinical skills right out of school, that's a task for a lot of people. And what I'm just trying to do is make our students as proficient as possible and make them aware of all the opportunities after graduation, whether they are traditional or non-traditional. And ergo, that's why I'm in this space now with the dental support organizations.
So I think a lot of the viewers and listeners might be like, well, why do you have Dr. Piskorowski on this podcast? Like, what does he have to do with DSOs and group practices? So let's talk a little bit about this program, the community-based clinical education program. And then how it ties into DSOs so I'll stop there and let you explain it.
Well, when I was at the University of Michigan in 2006, I started with a program that had 3 public health clinics and 6 doctors. When I left, we magnified it to the point of 39 locations with 6 different healthcare delivery models and 117 doctors. And I have to share with you, those doctors led the way for showing the path for our graduates. And in the public health space, if you will, only 1.7% of all graduates were going into public health dentistry. And there was a time, even when I graduated, that if you went to public health, you were considered less than an adequate provider. I have to tell you, I can't even lick the boots of half those people. That's how proficient they are in this world market. So I have high respect with them and the challenges that compromised patients in that arena show. And I tell my students, if you could work in this arena, you could work anywhere. And as a result, I have to tell you, we went from 1.7% in the year 2006 as a national average to my graduating class in 2017, 22% went to that model. And there's only 2 reasons that happened. Because they knew that they had great mentorship while they were on rotation. And the second thing was they found that these organizations were now running at a higher level because of our involvement with academics, because we provided them insight as to their operations through the lens of our students' eyes, and we helped them get better. So I can only make these programs better if our students are honest in their assessments, and we assess everything in our program. And that's the importance of AI in today's market.
Really interesting. So talk a little bit more about this program, because I'd love to know, the process and then how it relates to DSOs. So you've got, we touched on it a little bit, that you have 4th year students, and
Yep.
Really the idea is that they're doing hands-on work, but let's talk about what that looks like.
So what I consider what I consider here is this experience for our students is a capstone project. We developed a clinical assessment tool with Dr. Vijay Ramaswamy from University of Michigan for clinical competency. And it's a 13-point assessment tool that our students do a self-assessment before they go. They do a self-assessment after the rotation. And then the doctor that is overseeing them does the same tool and assesses them. We see if they're in parallel with one another. And I will share with you that different models lend themselves to a different type of educational experience. So we now allow our students to go to 2 3-week rotations. My goal is to do 2 4 weeks in the not too distant future. At Michigan, I had 3 4 weeks, and we started with a 2-week rotation. All dental schools should be able to do at least 1 2-week as they position their curriculum to accept more rotations in the last year. So this is a big leap of faith. And I have to tell you, for those that are resistant to change, sometimes it becomes a miracle for this to be implemented. But I have to tell you, this is the direction where we're going. So now at Michigan, I had 6 delivery models, and it did not include DSOs. And now at California, it does include DSOs, and I have relationships with 6 of them. Okay. And technically, after these conferences, 13 others have reached out to me to learn more about the platform. So the goal is to centralize the processes, okay, of student experiences, because I want to be seamlessly integrated with our clinics. And if you accept students from another school, why not go and to one common platform of assessment? Because I don't want Dr. A to listen to 6 different dental schools on how to do something. And I'm not saying our program is perfect, but we do and have come forward with a lot of modules, a lot of AI to how do you say, make this a predictable experience and to be seamlessly integrated with the clinics. So going forward is, I believe that every dental school should have a capstone program, that they should give our students an experience in traditional and non-traditional opportunities, because at Michigan and now here, we have given students experiences in Indian Health Service, tribal clinics, federally qualified health center, community centers, local dental centers, private practices that have developed the 501c3 for philanthropy and giving back to the community, and DSOs that actually work in the payer mechanism for fee-for-service and even Medicaid. So my heart is really out to those that are, in areas that struggle with access to care, number one, or dental deserts, okay? And for the most part, that's the type of clinic that I'm looking for. And in California, it's such an easy thing to explore. I have to tell you why, because just in the SoCal area, I got 20 million people. I mean, I could have the best program in the world and the world won't know, okay?
Right.
Because we're just another thing. One of my clinics actually has 100,000 patients in 1 square mile of the office.
Wow.
That's insane.
That is insane.
But if you drive in traffic here, you understand that it's real, okay? So, over that is I'm just trying to create a centralized process to make dental schools more appreciative of the other workforce model, because as we know, I believe the last number that I saw from the ADA was 30% of all graduates are going into this space and never experiencing the model other than maybe a lunch and learn and a pizza party at the school and having one of the representatives going there. But now I'm offering a protected working interview, okay? And quite frankly, many of our students have been hired from this process because they saw it, they tried it, they liked it, or at least they saw potential. Because with COVID, I have to tell you, my number one job as an educator is to give our students the best experience possible. And what is happening is through COVID, their experience at school is maybe 50% of what it used to be, okay?
Right.
So it's incumbent upon us to find solutions. And I have to tell you, the DSO space really stepped up in making that happen. And I thank them for that. I have such valued partners in this arena right now.
Well, that's great. So I'm just want to make sure we kind of recap what you said there. So you've got students 4th year, they fill out, they have a 13-step self-assessment that they fill out prior to actually, working in the field, right, with a
Right.
DSO. And then they actually do the self-assessment on the way back as well, right? When they come out of that. Yep. Talk to me a little bit about those results. It'd be interesting to kind of hear, what they're, how they felt about themselves before and after.
Yeah, so I have to tell you that in every category, our students have seen an increase in proficiency according to their self-assessment. And it's really, we know we're hitting the ball right on the hammer, the nail right on the head when the preceptor evaluation is between those two spaces, okay? So this year we're finding out that some of our students need more practice at prescription writing and pain management, prescription writing. So what we do is we go back and we interview our department chair and say, how are we teaching this? Can we give our students more experience in this area to make them more proficient? So what we're learning from our external set of eyes comes back to the school, and we're restructuring how we do things. So prior to my involvement here at UCLA, I looked at the clinical profile of our graduating class before the program is implemented. And in a very short period of time, we have doubled our students' restorative experience, and we have tripled their surgical experience, and we increased the root canals by 70%. And I have to tell you, I'm not happy. It's still not where it needs to be, because at 8 weeks, we're expecting another doubling of that proficiency with valued partners. So once I establish this valued baseline, then we go to improve the certain sections. Like we look at ages and stages. Are we giving our students the same pediatrics and geriatrics, Can we make them more comfortable and confident? Because I want a competent clinician when we graduate. And what we've seen is that less students are going into postgraduate opportunities because of this experience, that they gain this confidence, okay? And again, I'm just opening their eyes. We're not directing them to anything. They get to make an intelligent decision based upon this program. And I have to tell you, back in 2006, Dr. Marilyn Lance, who was the academic dean at U of M, she said, Bill, this information that you have, and she was just a rock star. She said, when our external eyes say that we're graduating a competent clinician, that's an academic grand slam, according to the Commission on Dental Accreditation. And that's very important. So we are very compliant with state regulations, with the Commission on Dental Accreditation. And so we just want to grow the program. And I'm not saying the DSO model is the only model. We want them to experience several models before they graduate.
Right. Right. And then they can feel where they are the most confident, and regardless of whether they go to a DSO or Indian Health or or private practice, they've experienced that model. And I'm sure, regardless of the model, they've become more proficient because you're doing different things and you have a different, the demographics are typically different. So you're dealing with all sorts of different people. So it must be.
So
really
Bill, one of the most critical things that I've ever seen is one of my students, after a 3-week rotation, said to me that was the worst experience of their lives. Okay. And I said, well, I'm sorry that happened, but could you elaborate? And she gave us this elaboration about, what could have been better at the clinic. And I took that to heart and I had the discussion with the clinic. 2 months later, she did another 3-week experience in a similar model, literally 5 miles away from where she was. And she says, Dr. P, I want to tell you something. This is the best experience of my life. And I said to her, so even the bad experience was a learning experience? And she's absolutely. And I said, so what was the difference? She says, leadership of the clinic. And that was such a profound statement. Okay. So what I say to DSOs and any clinic model that wants to engage, choose your teaching doctors wisely, because the world will know tomorrow. Because a lot of our DSOs and our public health clinics have benefited through the recruitment platform. And I know that that's a big struggle for a lot in this space. How much money are spent on recruitment and retention annually? Right. And you know what? I'm giving you a free working interview. Okay. Right. I mean, not free, but it's offset. Yep. The costs are offset.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that leads into next question I have. So as far as, we talked a little bit about, what the students feel, right, when they come back from, working with a DSO or one of the other models. Talk to me a little bit about the feedback you're getting from DSOs.
A lot of DSOs, I have to tell you, are very enamored with the program, and they understand that this is a stepping stone, right? So those that really work this out well, I have to tell you, when they come forward and they provide an orientation process on day one of expectations, those are the clinics that they're going to excel. When the student has this orientation with the dentist and says, these are my strengths and weaknesses, if they listen, then they make this go and happen. Because you know what? Residency programs, this is nothing exceptional. It's a residency program, basically with trained doctors. And I have to tell you, one of our DSOs has really hit it. And that is, they selected their top mentors in their group as teaching dentists. So every one of those dentists won some sort of mentorship award within their organization. And those are the ones now being selected. Now, what has happened? We have seen various levels of expertise and clinical expertise, and we talk to them on how to be a good teaching dentist. So we have modules on this as well. So what I implore sites to do, first, allow our students to treat all the emergency patients, because they're really good at triaging medical histories and deciphering and making it simple in a presentation to the dentist. And in those contacts, that patient feels more comfortable because, quite frankly, on exit interviews, we find that the patients actually like being treated by the students because they're more compassionate. They haven't been scathed, okay, by real world, if you will. Right. And then at that level, there's the communication that goes on, and this bond is occurring. And the preceptor, along with the chairside assistant that they work with, is another set of eyes and ears that says, you know what, this student is capable of doing more or less than originally thought. And that's how you have to build upon it, right? So I look at clinical experiences. I try to give our students a 40-40-20 split. 40% of all their procedures should be preventative or diagnostic in nature, 40% restorative in nature, and 20% should be in pain management, whether it's root canals, exodontia, or prescription writing. Those are the three platforms that I look at from a general practice perspective. And then we look at geriatric, pediatrics, and the general population in the middle. Are we giving them? Because, my experience with pediatrics when I graduated from Loyola was pretty minimal. And ergo, I liked working on kids, but I wasn't really trained that well in working on kids back in my day, right? So that's why a lot of practitioners, but now we're giving that confidence because we have sites that only work on children, okay? So we look at the profile of a clinic. We try to really to fine tune that and make it better. But in the end, we look at the strengths and weaknesses. But I have to tell you that I would say that the clinical skills of most students in most dental schools has gone down just a notch. They're going to need a little bit more nurturing going forward. But you can make that work in this arena because confidence built up. I mean, when I left dental school and started my own practice, I literally did my entire graduation requirements in 2 weeks in private practice. Was I prepared to do that? No, I was thrown into the fire, okay? But I had to do that to survive. So, this is what we're giving is a nice assessment. And if they're true to their, judgments and of their own self-assessment, this is a great path on what they need to do after graduation.
Oh, that's great. So talk about this. If group practice DSOs listening and like, this sounds intriguing. What's the catch? What's the cost?
Okay. Like anything else, you become an extension of the school, but we do not tell you how to run your practice by any stretch of the imagination. In essence, once you sign up with us, we go and review the clinic. We look at, the facility. Is it going to be a good nurturing environment? How many chairs do you have? How many spaces are not utilized? And then I come up with a formula of how many students you should consider in a pilot program, whether it's 1, 2. The most we ever had in one of my models was 6. Oh. And there was a retired dentist that was overseeing those 6. So at that age, he wasn't really, capable of seeing that 20 patient schedule himself, but he could definitely work with 6 students in the restorative arena and 2 students in the surgical arena. So we gave that individual another opportunity to give back, if you will, and to make a living, okay? And they had fun doing it. So the model is this: I go and see how the clinic participates. And quite frankly, in some situations, I'll show up at the office. I usually book the first appointment, and I watch the employees walk into the office, and I see what the attitudes are. Are they energized? Are they less than energized? How am I received at the front desk? These are all things that we look at. And I have to tell you, normally within 10 minutes, you can find out if we're heading in the right direction. Okay. Then if that passes that purview, we have a discussion with the doctors, and I lay out a formulary of the expectations of the doctors. And if you want to go forward, give me a list of the names of the doctors that you want us to credential, for an adjunct appointment as a faculty, because that adjunct faculty appointment gives liability protection while working with the student, just as if you were working with our student in our home-based clinic in Westwood, California. So basically, no extra liability insurance is necessary. We don't say to give up yours, because if in the event of a lawsuit, everybody gets sued, okay? But I'm just sharing to you is that UCLA prides themselves on this structured process. Now, it takes about 2 to 3 months to go through the vetting process, because we do background checks, everything, with the UCLA to make sure that you should be a teaching dentist. And then we also have to tell the State Board of California and also the Commission on Dental Accreditation why we selected this clinic. And then we get approval, and it takes a couple months for that to happen. And then we do a 3-month pilot program. And in that 3 months, and usually one rotation is good enough to find out what's going on. But in 3 months, we can normally do about 12 rotations, 12 different students at 3 weeks each, okay? And we find, and we go back and we talk about the financials. We talk about the productivity. We talk about the experience for the student. We talk about, is it rewarding for the site? Is it a plus? Is it an energizer for the location? So we go over all these data sets, if you will. And then we talk about the contract value. So the minimum contract, I will be straight up with you, is based upon the state and the payer mechanism. A standardized contract is $200 a day for a pre-doc student, and more, twice as much for a resident. And we even allow faculty to go. And again, depending on the model and the payer mix, we then negotiate this. And then we review the financial data after that period of time to see if we're hitting on target. So if a site takes more than one student, I do negotiate the fee down, because transportation, our program handles all program costs, meaning we do the cars, the rentals, the hotels, the flights when necessary. And all the student has to do is show up, okay? And we extrapolate that. If it's above and beyond cost, the sites or the other clinics usually help with the airfares and hotels. But if it's local, that $200 per diem usually is enough to suffice everything that we need to do. Because one of the greatest expenses I have as the director of the program is our IT component, which is not cheap, okay? And we need this information to make the program better, because my team of Dr. Lisa Wen, Steve Lee, Dr. Steve Lee, and Kyle Tupez, we review this data every 3 weeks. And I said, we try to put ourselves out of business after each rotation, because if we don't look at this and improve upon what we're doing, then somebody else will. And I have to tell you, sometimes it's a struggle at the beginning, but once we go into the flow, most people do like the process.
Okay. So a couple other things here as I, kind of think this through. What about, and I think I might have brought this up earlier on in that conversation, but are there, beyond California and beyond UCLA, are there any other university, any dental schools doing anything like this in the country?
Oh, absolutely. I started this at University of Michigan, okay, with the model, because most programs rely on grants to fund the process. And when I came on board at Michigan, I lost a grant within 3 months for some technicalities that I had nothing to do with. And then the dean even said to me, he goes, well, we might have to cancel the program. We can't afford to be sending our students. And I'm not going to charge our students, because some schools do. Yeah. And I think that's criminal. When you're looking at an average graduating student getting out of school at $300,000, that's insane, okay? Because going back to what I said before, the return on investment, depending on the payer mix, is at least break even to 8.9%. It's somewhere in that spot, depending whether you're a public health clinic or a fee for service, but you definitely do not lose money at this. So it's kind of like if you're breaking even or making money, you got a recruitment tool, okay? We're evaluating your clinic from the eyes of a student. I don't know if you say no to me that I personally want to work with you. Right. Because this is like a win-win-win for everybody, because you're enhancing our students' education and we're increasing access to care for vulnerable populations sustainably and accountably. That's my mission statement, and it hasn't vacillated since 2006. So I have to tell you that we have proven value in most segments, but at the end of the day, most of our students are seeing anywhere from 6 to 9 patients a day, which more than amply pays for the cost of the program, depending on the payer mix. At dental school, they're seeing 2 patients a day. So the environment is so much better. I have to tell you that we allow some of our students to get credit for their services out and outreach. And in some cases, they can do as much as 1/4 of their entire requirement during CBCE rotations. Wow. So the students like it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned the working interview, which is great. Do you have any numbers on 4th-year students that have worked in a DSO setting that end up going to work for that DSO afterwards?
Yeah, so there is one DSO that we work with after the first 7 rotations, 7 different students, 2 were hired. Okay. And I will share with you that the others were seriously contemplating it, but they chose to go to postgraduate opportunities like specialties programs. Okay. But this is in their eye set. So the seed has already been planted, right? But that same DSO, I will share with you that since 2009, and this is not my numbers, this is right from them, that they hired 69 of our graduates since 2009. But 30 of those 69 happened since the development of the program. What's ironic about that, only 10 rotated through that location. Huh. Okay, but it was word of mouth from their colleagues saying that, you know what, this ain't a bad option. Because a lot of students are selecting options with DSOs and other clinics, and they wind up leaving after 6 months because it wasn't what they wanted.
Right.
Okay. So right now, this working interview, I have to tell you, it's a win-win for our students in opening their eyes, as well as for the sites. And when I look at some of these DSOs, anywhere from 5 clinics to 1,000, that's a manpower issue. Okay, and I will tell you that we have become part of an HR system if they want us to be. Okay, meaning we tell them about their workforce, they tell us about our workforce. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and with the issues that everybody seems to have with recruitment and retention right now, I mean, I think any help in the HR department is needed. So, talk a little bit about the future of the program. What do you see as far as working with more DSOs across more states, with more universities, with more dental schools? I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on the expansion of the program, or just even from a UCLA perspective.
With the other 13 that are now interested in reaching out, I have to share with you that obviously we don't have the manpower at one school to do that. But it leads into why I came to California to begin with, because there's 6 dental schools here, okay, with another one starting up. And I have to share with you that I really would love to see a day where our dental students work with other dental students from other schools, because if someone's doing it better, I want to know why. Okay, so this is a way of us competing, and healthy competition is good in this arena. Because I know personally, viewing on international programs and stuff, where students from other schools, they kind of pump their chest up and say, well, we know this and we know this. And you know what? It's so gratifying to see that these experiences are translating into real world environments, right? So going on, when the dean says, Bill, you've got this aquarium where we don't have a formidable program, but now I'll share with you is that there are a lot of schools that have programs, but again, I'll say they're not cost offset. They charge their students sometimes, or they get some other funding. I want to share with you is that we evaluate just about everything. All our systems are in order. And I'm not saying we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination. That's why I want to really conglomerate with other schools. So we have 16 dental schools that we have actually shared this model with. And right now there are 3 that have embraced the majority of the platform, and another 3 that are using parts of the template. And now I will share with you, as we get more DSOs on, we would like to centralize this process. And I mentioned the first part, UCLA would be very interested in creating what I call an academic dental support organization that structures the relationship on this platform between other dental schools and different practice models.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Exciting times. Before we wind this down, Bill, is there anything that you want to mention? Did we forget anything?
Yeah, I would say there's some tangibles and intangibles, and where do I see this going? I've met with several DSOs, and several in particular are embracing primary medical care or urgent care.
Right.
And I really believe that that's going to be a winner chicken dinner, if you will. Okay. And I will share with you that my goal is not to just limit this to the dental students, but we are now reaching out to our nurse practitioner school to send a cohort of medical providers, dental being at the top because we developed this, into these arenas to help our patients understand their own health and to improve their quality of life. So down the road, I do see this because the model not only works in dentistry, it works for nursing, it works for veterinary medicine, it works for a whole bunch of other cadres of health professionals, social workers, to name a few. I know I'm leaving a lot of people out, but I will tell you that we are positioning ourselves with champions. And the other intangibles are, you know what, if you prove the pilot program is working, some universities are allowing co-branding, okay? So I'm saying that probably wouldn't hurt for some DSOs to have an affiliation with UCLA School of Dentistry on their wall, okay?
Right.
And we do have an example of that in Southern California with one of our public health clinics. And that person really deserved that award because not only is he taking our pre-doc students, he's taking our oral surgery, pediatric, and our endodontic residents, and open to mind for innovative programs in digital dentistry. So, I mean, we're really trying to position ourselves to really create and be that person that goes into the community. And I'm just trying to live the mission of our dean, because when he told me I'm bringing the dental school to the community, I've never heard those words from another dental school. Okay. And that's what captured my interest in coming here. So I will share with you is that those doctors also have a tagline to go and communicate with our experts at the school if something arises in their practices, if there's something they want to learn, if a practice profile says that these doctors that are watching our students need more surgical experience, then we'll go and train them, okay, or provide a program, or in fact, encourage our faculty to go work there a day a week to help offset some of the shortcomings of those practices. So everything's on the table. And that's what I really love about the dean and his administration and leadership, is that he is considering all opportunities. And that's kind of like you, Bill, with your corporation. And that is, you explore everything, because at the end, we're trying to assist people to become better at whatever they do. And that's basically what I want to do, is shorten the learning curve of our graduates to become better clinicians and confident in what they're doing.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Bill. Yeah, and I think it's a really valid point that you make, and something that I probably can't stress enough is it sounds like UCLA School of Dentistry operates a bit differently than maybe some of the other dental schools out there, and especially the perception I think that DSOs and maybe the industry has sometimes, they're maybe stuck in old ways. It sounds like you're very progressive, doing things that are pretty much outside the realm of what we would think of as a traditional dental school doing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give a diverse portfolio of experiences. Okay, there are some dental schools that actually own their own public health clinics. So that's one model that their students are engaged in. I think we need to allow them to explore all opportunities.
Yep, and that's what you're doing. Bill, can you just shout out your email address if anybody who's listening or watching this wants to get, and we'll put it in the show notes, but just in case they're just listening.
Okay, it's my first initial B as in boy, and my last name, Piskorowski, Piskorowski, at dentistry.ucla.edu.
We'll make sure that we have that in the show notes, just in case you can't spell that. We'll give you a pass on that.
And again, if you just go to the UCLA website, just look up administrators, you'll see it's easy to find as well. But again, I really look forward to speaking to others, because entering into the DSO space has really enlightened me in many different ways. And the vendors that I've met, I have to truly tell you, these are things that dental schools should be looking at as well. The AI components that I see. If you look at this, Bill, a dental school is a vertical DSO. We see 600 patients a day. And I have to tell you, our systems are not necessarily perfect, okay? And we would benefit by even attending these segments as well.
Yeah, and you attend quite a few of them. So, I mean, more than likely, if you're at one of these upcoming, especially in 2022, now that we're at the end of the year, there's a bunch coming up. And I know in fact, where I met Bill several times as at these DSO conferences. So we'll hopefully see you there. But in the meantime, don't be afraid to reach out to him. Like I said, we'll put his email address in the show notes. And I'd like to, again, thank everybody for listening in or watching us on YouTube. It's been a great year for us here at Group Dentistry Now, and we appreciate the relationships and having great, meaningful conversations like the one we're having here today with Dr. Bill Piskorowski. Again, he is the Associate Dean of Community-Based Clinical Education, CBCE. That's what we're talking about today, and how a DSO can leverage that. Thanks, Bill. Any final words?
I just really am enjoying the ride, and I know the DSO space is here, and I just want our students to get the best experience possible. And I can't thank you enough for allowing me this opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you. So until next time, I am Bill Neumann, and this is the Group Dentistry Now Show. Thanks.
The Group Dentistry Now Show has listeners across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. If you like our show, subscribe today, and please tell your colleagues about us.